Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Tides of Business. My name is Tamara. I am the host, and our guest today is absolutely incredible. It is Sandy Moore, who is the president of New Business Development at Segrest. So welcome to the program, Sandy.
Thank you. Thank you, Tamara, so much for having me. Good morning.
Absolutely. Good morning. I'm so excited for you to join the show. So I read a little bit about your bio, with your first fish and everything. And my question is, you started out kind of a little bit of an entrepreneur. So you started out collecting fish and snakes and selling them at a really young age.
So I started entry-level fish farm worker when she moved down here from Iowa in 1975. And my sister and I followed her shortly thereafter. And so, we're entry-level fish farm workers are just like entry-level any other kind of farm worker. They don't make a whole lot of money. And so I just, we lived right next door to a fish farm. So I was always in the ditch, actually, and I'm glad my mom doesn't know this. I was always in the ditch, collecting arrowheads, collecting snakes, doing stuff like that. And then a couple of years later, she was working for Elwyn Segrest, and they had implemented a reptile room. And I'm like, wow, okay, well, I know where snakes are. I'm going to go catch and sell them to him. $5. It was great. It was a great side hustle for a little kid.
That's a lot of money back then.
Yep.
Oh, that's awesome. So that's kind of like you're beginning into a little bit of an entrepreneur background. Now, Segrest is not a new company. I believe it was founded in 1961. That it seems to function a lot like a startup. It seems to function where innovation is really kind of at the forefront of what you guys do, and you're kind of a smarter company. So I'm sure a lot of people you do a lot of different roles, right? You're not just one thing. It's kind of whatever needs to get done. Is that kind of how it's run?
That's exactly it, right? So we do freshwater and saltwater and aquatic plants. And at some of our locations, we also do small animals and birds and reptiles. So it's all about, so innovation is really the right word, right? Because our hobby and in all of those addressable categories, it's all about what do you have that's new and is different and what the consumer wants. And so we spend a lot of time actually interfacing with the end consumer, finding out what's trending, because we don't necessarily always get that feedback from the retailers that we sell to.
Yeah, no, that definitely makes sense. So I want to kind of get into your background a little bit. So Segrest was your first job, and then you went to college and you got a degree in, it was business administration and management, I believe.
Business administration, and I worked for Dun & Bradstreet for a few years, and I loved that. Dun & Bradstreet was a fantastic background to bring back into live animals, right? Because I came into live animals at a time where it was just kind of, I guess, what they expect a Florida animal business to be. Like you expect Florida Man, and it was kind of like that. And there wasn't, I think the mentality, was what I really wanted to change, as well as, I just never saw me being a woman as kind of an obstacle to growth within the industry. Other people in the industry may have had different ideas, but it just never occurred that I couldn't become, I couldn't reach the upper echelon in doing that. But I thought at that time, animals were treated more as a commodity than as, living sentient creatures. And so,
yeah, for sure.
An opportunity to improve that. And so we hired a full-time staff veterinarian to work with us. And she was tremendous in helping us improve our animal welfare. But then there was also the chance to elevate the customer service experience to bring us up to date with computers. Like when I first worked there, our computers were from Radio Shack.
Oh, I would have thought pen and paper, that's just so easy to do invoices and stuff, especially in wet environments. So you had computers, that's good.
Exactly. So it has been quite the evolution coming from where we were, right, running around with no shoes and doing whatever we were doing and not knowing if, we were negatively impacting the animals that we were touching, because we didn't know what we didn't know.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a huge evolution through Segrest. So when you originally went to school to get a business degree, you obviously had a very strong interest in business, but what was the plan with that? Like, were you thinking you'd go back into animals at some point, or were you just kind of wanted to dive in the business world?
I don't know that it was really my plan to come back into live animals, but I know that I couldn't imagine a life without having animals. So it seemed natural. Seemed like the natural progression to me to go back into that field and see what I could do. I love being a businesswoman, but I also love working with animals.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way. I love both. I really love working, with the animals, and I'm a little bit more on the research right now. But I love that side, and I love business. So it's kind of a weird mix. Not a lot of people are kind of at the crossroads of business and biology. So that's pretty awesome. Now, you got most of your training. I mean, obviously you have your degree, but most of your training has got to be hands-on, right? It's you moving up the ranks through Segrest. It was you kind of learning the job and evolving as you kind of went. Was there any mentors that kind of help you along the way to kind of shape how you kind of became the leader that you are?
Yeah, definitely. So Elwyn Segrest would be first and foremost my mentor. So when I came back to work for Elwyn, I came back as the secretary to the bookkeeper. And, I was fortunate enough to have a lot of access to him. And he really took me under his wing and helped me grow. And, I was incredibly loyal to him, and he's repaid that so many times over. So, and we work as a giant team. When I came back to work, we only had 30 people. Right now we have 500. But at that time, we're so small that we have weekly huddles. And we had even in smaller than that and so everybody knew what was going on. Communication at that size was fantastic, but also accountability was also really a big part of it. And so he knew exactly what was going on, and he expected us to also know exactly what was going on. And so he helped us grow. And we had other people. He had a great talent to bring in people who made, their degrees may not have been in any kind of animal sciences or life sciences, but who were experts in the field that they were in. So we were able to grow the business with people that you would never suspect would be great in the animal business, right? Accountants that become fish breeders, or right, or engineers and things like that. And so you get and we all help each other grow and develop.
Yeah, I mean, it's so important, because a lot of times if you just put biologists together, you don't have the business side, and you need the accountants and the engineers and, the business to be able to make the biology all work. So it's really important that you guys, were able to play from all the different fields to build the company the way it is now.
Exactly. And so I came into this with this business background, and then, I came in within a year of the two national Ps becoming national pet retailers. And so I come in with this business background of how to sell and market to these commercial chains. And so it was just an interesting evolution.
Yeah. And you definitely, I mean, for Segrest to grow the way it has, it is very important that you get into those supply chains. So that's awesome. Now, you said that, you kind of knew that there wasn't any barriers to you getting towards like the top of a company or this company, but you kind of had to build your skill set along the way. So were you kind of thinking originally, I would love to be the president of Segrest and let me specifically build that skill set? Or was it a little bit more nuanced than that? Did you just kind of slowly build the skill set, and then being president was a possibility?
I think that I slowly built the skill set, and And, 20 years ago, I could see kind of the writing on the wall that I was going to be the heir apparent, right? Because I was the closest to Elwyn and knew each of the different parts of the business. But, I don't they say every young man dreams of becoming president of the U.S. I was like that one young man. Like I could do that today. I wouldn't have that job for all the money in the world, but I just, I'm glad to have that ambition. I think it's served me well.
Yeah, absolutely. So for me as a leader, I think working with people is both the hardest and the best part of a lot of jobs. That learning to work with people is kind of difficult. It's learning to work with different personalities and, becoming a strong leader for all the different personality types. So is that something that you just slowly kind of built up, or like, did you have any additional training? Like that's the skill set that I still very much struggle with. So how did you get so good at it?
So that I don't even know today if I have it. I have some really great people. So what happened, my iteration has gone from mimicking Elwyn, right, and about failing, right, because women should, my experience, women should never try to be like powerful men. It's not natural to us. And I've tried to do that, and I come off as a great big B word.
Yeah, it's hard.
And so, I had to dial that back and then rethink about how do I, if I'm talking to people that I'm trying to teach and encourage and mold and hold accountable, I do it. How do I do that and be authentic? And I do it like how I treat my children, right? I'm a female, right? I'm a strong female, but I'm a female. I need to come at it like that. And I also had to, kind of dial back my thought on, what is a leader? Because, you can only be pulled up from the top for so far, and you have to be pushed up by the people beneath you, right? And so what I finally came to was that I'm a female leader, right? And I am also a servant leader. My job is to support them in the jobs that they're doing, right? Not for them to, woo, Sandy. So, so that's how it works for me today. And that might still be an evolution of how that will look 5 years from now. Cause I'm still learning how to, because different people respond differently to different incentives and to different disciplines.
Yeah. I really love what you just said. You can only be pulled so far from the top. After that, you have to be pushed up. And that, I actually haven't heard that before. I mean, I understand the sentiment, but it's true though. You can't be the leader unless the team is willing to follow you and to have the support of the team pushing you into that position. I mean, that's pretty powerful. When you became president of Segrest, were you able to kind of help shape the agenda of where you wanted Segrest to go?
Definitely. And I had been doing so for a long time, with those after hour meetings or whatever, we would talk a lot about strategy, a lot about our principles, and then how to apply those. What was the next big market grab going to be? What was the next acquisition going to be? How did that play into our long-term goals? So been part of that process and have a core group of people around me that continue to help with that process.
You've accomplished a lot since you've gotten to Segrest. Are there any really big goals that you are specifically trying to go for at this point, or are you just kind of seeing where the market goes and where you need to take the company?
Well, I think that live pet market is in a great big flux, right? The path to purchase is a lot different than it was when I was a kid than when you were a kid. Buying animals over the internet was not an option then. And so now it's, where are the new pet stores going to come from? Are they going to look like traditional pet stores? Are they going to be e-commerce, or are they going to be a blend of that? Or are you going to go in and source all of your animals at a retail rescue? I mean, it's a complicated place where we're at right now. So I'm looking at, how do we remain relevant
Now, when I first reached out to you to be on the podcast, you were kind of dealing with the aftermath of Hurricane Milton. And, it got me thinking that, obviously your day-to-day is probably a lot, It's probably a lot of decisions, a lot of meetings, a lot of things that you have to handle on a regular basis. But when you have some sort of crisis that comes up that puts it into catastrophe kind of situation where you're dealing with, some crazy things. It made me think, like, over the years, you probably have some like crazy stories of things that you've had to deal with. Is there like any funny or crazy story you can share?
There are so many. The live animal interest in business is a really interesting place to be on, because we have to monitor the laws we have local laws, we have state laws, we have federal laws. There are different laws for different animals, state to state. And so we've got to monitor all of those. And then we have all the kind of importation laws. And so what things have happened is there was a time 10 or 15, maybe even 20 years ago, when I brought in crawfish from Australia, thinking they were one of the species that we could possess in Florida. I was wrong.
Oh, no.
I was wrong. I was arrested.
No, you were not.
And I was arrested to do community service and be on probation, and it was very embarrassing.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, that's a big lesson learned. That was painful.
There was one time before anybody knew any better, and this is, oh my gosh, this has to be 30 years ago or something. It's right when CNN was becoming popular. So around the time that they invented fire. So our Nigerian supplier, to fill up a box, he was out of one thing we had ordered. So he substituted a bag of African land snails, the giant snails, to us.
Oh, really? Yeah.
And we didn't know any better. We'd never heard of them. And so we sold them. And so CNN showed up at 6:00 in the morning, wanting to interview us. And so we had to, and that was back in the day when we actually did do everything by hand. It was before the computers. And so we had to go back through, hundreds and hundreds of invoices, finding out where we sold these animals to, so that FDA go and retrieve those animals from the retailer or from their customer. Yeah, that was great.
Yeah, man. Oh gosh, those are both really hard lessons to learn.
Yeah.
Oh goodness. Yeah.
We don't accidentally import or ship animals that could be injurious to the environment is really important, because I don't want to go to jail.
No, definitely don't want to be arrested again. Okay, that's a little crazier than I thought it would be. That's awesome. Pain for a lesson, but you won't forget that one for sure.
Mistake ever again.
So I'm sure that you love being president of Segrest, but as you kind of rose up in the ranks, you wore a lot of different hats. Like, you did a lot of different things. Was there another role that you really loved?
Yeah, I really, 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 really loved, and I have a hard time not sticking my foot in it again, being head buyer, being that person that sources all of the animals and find out what's new, what's hot, what's trending, what
Yes.
name. Oh, it was great.
Oh, that is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure that would be like a really fun job.
It was the best, because in the buyer role, we do audits around the world of who our vendors are, where they sources their animals, how they breed or how they collect, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so have been so fortunate to travel all over the world, finding new animals and improving our supply chain. That's incredible.
That's amazing. So you've been in the industry a very long time, which is amazing. It's really, there aren't a lot of people that have kind of been, certainly not with one company for so long, but also, just been in the industry and kind of had so many different positions. So it's really, really cool. But what keeps you motivated after all of these years?
I still love the animals. It's just that simple, isn't it? It's just that simple. I have a new favorite fish every time I walk out into the adult, and they come to you, and I have to go find out about it, or it sends me off a segue to, now I'm going to go play with isopods. Let me see how crazy I can get with isopods. And right now I'm into flowering trees, because people that like animals like we do want to know everything that there is to know about them. So I, keep being curious.
Yeah, that's awesome. You're still curious and you like digging into rabbit holes, like you want to find out everything about, all the different species that you encounter, that's very, very cool. So you're a leader in a very niche kind of industry. Are there any lessons that you wish you would have learned like ahead of time? Like you wish somebody would have told you that they're not in a book, like you're kind of creating this environment as you go. But was there any big life lesson that you're like, oh gosh, I wish somebody would have just told me that ahead of time? Besides not getting arrested.
Down. I think probably, being a servant leader, I wish I had known that concept before. I was raised in a my way or the highway kind of managerial style. And it took time for me to unlearn that and to learn something different. I wish I had known that. That fish are easy and people are not. I wish I'd known that.
Fish don't talk back.
I wish I hadn't got involved with the organized hobby sooner, because there are experts in the organized hobby that will know more about their specific niche than I will ever know. And I need that knowledge. And I also, there's one significant meeting. I wish I had made that connection years and years ago with a man who's the former curator of New York Aquarium, who's kind of like the Dr. Temple Grandin of fish, right? And so I took to our building and like, okay, what'd you change? And he told me, and it's like, it's right in front of my face and I can't see it.
Yeah, it's just obvious to him, that outside view. Yeah.
Right. So there's lots of things I wish I had asked for help a lot sooner, right? Because I'm, one of my worst character traits is being self-sufficient and thinking that
Mine too.
Yeah. So asking help turns out to not be a bad thing. It actually, people want to help you if you will let them.
That's this crazy thing. Like I've had to learn that lesson as well, because I'm also super self-sufficient. And for me, it's kind of hard to ask for help. Like I have no problem helping somebody else, but I hate asking for help. So that's been one of the big lessons that I've learned, is that if you ask for help, people are usually wanting to help. They're willing to bend over backwards, and people are always friendly and willing to help. So that's a big lesson that I'm still kind of working on, but I'm getting better.
Me too.
Yeah. So a lot of our listeners are going to be fish keepers, and they're going to be passionate kind of about the hobby, obviously. But is there any lesson that you would partake if somebody wanted to have, let's say, a more sustainable tank? Are there any specific things that you would recommend?
If the retailer is willing to share with you how well they know about the sourcing of the animals, how short the supply chain is, right? That's so important to me. It's so important that my company is committed to the goals of MAC and to the goals of Ornamental Fish International, where we share this code of ethics that, we pay our bills. How about that? Make sure that the fishermen actually get paid and it's a sustainable livelihood, that the fishermen are protecting the environment by not cyanide fishing or dynamite fishing or other things that are done primarily to collect food fish, right? Because I want divers whose job it is to go out, collect live fish, because he makes money off of dead fish, and it's crass, but that's how it is. To make sure that your retailer shares your values, have a conversation, right? Just start the conversation, because I think you don't know what you don't know, and maybe the retailer doesn't know also. So
that's very good advice. So just wrapping up a little bit, are there any big initiatives that you're working on as far as Segrest, let's say in like the next year? Any big projects that you're excited about?
Let's see. Right at the moment, of course, I'm very involved in rebuilding my shipping facility here in Gibsonton. We suffered a catastrophic loss during Hurricane Milton. We had 36 inches of water flooding for about 60 hours, and all of our pumps were underwater, and it even got into our generators, and it was just, I've never seen it.
Oh, wow.
I tell you, the worst day of my career was walking into the facility and it being completely silent.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that is a pretty terrifying sound. Like I work in a lot of pump rooms as well, and you hear that sound, you're like,
right.
That's pretty devastating.
So it took us 10 days to get electricity before we got some stuff working.
I can't even begin to imagine how you start that rebuild process. Like, that's got to be an overwhelming task.
Yeah, so it was. And so, yeah, so how you start is pen and paper. Like,
yeah. Pen and paper and leaning on that team that you've built.
And just like, make the decision tree, like what needs to happen first and what needs to happen second and who needs to be responsible for what, and have those checks and balances. So, in like by the next week we had power, and then we had some pumps working, then more pumps working and more pumps working. But so many things have to come into play. So between, the place where we're totally out of business and I've got 100 people at that location that I need to tether to that organization, right? Because I can't just go off the street and hire 100 new people who know how to take care of things. So like now I have what seems like a whole new set of buildings, and all of the pumps are up and running and everything, the tanks have been reorganized and everything's repainted, the new sand and the sand filters. What a process. Like, and you don't know what you can go through until you're actually faced with the challenge. And then if you're lucky, you get people around you who are just looking to take some direction on, let's get this thing moving again. And
yeah, what do we need? Where are we going?
In 3 weeks we're shipping. Yeah. And I can't tell you how grateful I am for the support of the hobbyists and of our customers and the rest of the industry, because the outpouring of support has been tremendous. It has been really helpful.
You're part of a lot of organizations, like a lot of different groups. You are a very positive influence on the industry. But is there one group in particular that you are just extremely proud of, or maybe is making really big steps or moves that maybe we should be a little bit more aware of?
I think so. I'm on the executive board of Ornamental Fish International, right, which is like the PJAC of the world. Like, so they have, I represent the United States on their executive board, and we're right now talking about creating a subchapter of OFI for China. Nobody on our board currently speaks Mandarin. Like, it's such a big challenge, right? For a nation that imports and consumes as many tropical fish as China does, they are not represented. And so we're not talking with them. So we're talking about creating the subchapter down in the Guangzhou, Shenzhen region of China. And I'm hoping, my hope, because I'm a Pollyanna and I do believe it's possible, that if we can communicate with them about our core values around sustainability and around sourcing, we can change that culture so that they don't overfish anything. It's set up for wholesalers and people in the transportation. But if you want visibility into it, I mean, it's a free webpage. You can go onto it and just see what the core values are and see who the members are, because it's really the list of the who's who in the aquatics industry around the world.
And the people who are doing it right, that have like the really good ethics, that are just trying to make the industry better. So, okay, 2 last questions. So if you could go back in time and talk to your younger self, maybe the little girl, catching snakes, is there anything that you would just love to tell her?
I think so Sheryl Sandberg wrote this great book called Lean In, and I mentor a lot.
Yeah.
Right. And I give them all this book, right? Because the main theme of the book is what could you do if you weren't afraid? Because women, our own fear is what holds us back. It's not somebody pushing us down. It's our own fear. Let's just walk through it to the other side.
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually a really awesome book. So last question. So is there anything in particular you'd want to tell any of our listeners, or anything that you'd want them to remember about this interview?
That I think that everybody in the ornamental aquatic space loves their animals, and they have a lot to share with you, and we like people too. So get to know us, get to come visit us.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty awesome that you guys give tours. I before we started filming, I was saying, I met you years ago when we gave me a tour. So it's really cool that people can actually go and see like a facility of this scale. You know, I earlier I said it's a small company. I meant small like compared to Fortune 500, but in this industry, it's a massive company, you know, and it's very impressive. You guys have done an incredible job, you know, with the organization and the filtration and the employees. I mean, it's a really impressive organization.
Yeah. But I think, I think that's such a good point, is that I open it up and continue to have it open up to the public so they can see where their animals come from. I don't want the activists to write our story for us. I want to write my own story.
Yeah, that is very, very important. So, all right. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate your time. It's been wonderful chatting with you. You have such an incredible job and an incredible life experience. So it's really awesome just getting to pick your brain a little bit.
All right. I appreciate it so much.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for listening to another episode of The Tides of Business, and we will be back next week. Bye.